Let's see here. Good. It's good to see you all. Good to see you all. Today, we are going to look at Deborah. Some people like to call her Deborah. Um, um, and what I'm going to do is well, before I say that, just to say that the name Deborah means bee, B-E-E. So um, just for information purposes, that's what the word Deborah means, bee. And the name occurs only twice in the Old Testament, in the Bible, in terms of two persons. In Genesis chapter 35 and verse 8, there's a Deborah who was the nurse of Isaac's wife, Rebecca. And there is recorded in that verse that they identify her as Rebecca's nurse and that she died and was buried under an oak below Bethel. And nothing more is known of her. The second Deborah is the one that we are going to focus on today. Has a much more prominent role in the New Testament. In fact, she was probably the most prominent woman. Probably next person next to her would be Queen Esther. But the most prominent woman in the Old Testament. And so before we talk about her, I want us to read Judges chapters 4 and 5. So gives us, which is really the core of what she did or who she is. So Deborah, chapters 4 and 5. And let's see, how many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, great. I would like 3 persons to read chapter 4 and 5 persons to read chapter 5. So I see Bryce's hand up first. So Bryce, you will read chapter 4, verses 1 to 8. 9 to 16. I see Susan's hand, 9 to 16. And who would like to read 17 to the end of chapter 4?
I'm still trying to find us.
Find Judges. It is right after.
I got it. 277. Okay, I got it.
Yes, it is right after Joshua, which is right after the 5 books of the Torah.
Father, be aware that when you turn away from the computer.
Yes, I know.
We lose your voice.
I'm sorry. I am sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, I have to be cognizant of that. I don't know what is happening with my
I think
set.
it happens at kind of the first part of every year, so I suspect it's batteries.
Okay, I'll check it. I'll have to check it. Okay, so Bryce is reading verses 1 to 8. Who wants to read 9 to 16? I said Susan wants to do that. Who wants to read 17 to the end?
I can.
Okay, Celeste will do 17 to the end. And then chapter 5, who would like to read 1 to 6? I see Iris's hand. And then we have 7 to 12. Who wants to do 7 to 12? I see Lisa's hand. Then who would like to read 13 to 18?
I'll do that.
Wait a minute. I see George's hand. And then who said I will do that?
Me.
Lorraine?
Yeah.
You will read from 19 to the end of chapter. Right?
19.
Hold on a second. I'm wrong. Like Lorraine, you will read 19 to 24. And then who wants to read 25 to the end?
I
can do it.
Do we need another reader? I'll read it again.
Okay, Pam will do it. Okay. Hope I can remember the order you're in and you can remember where you're supposed to read it. Okay. I know we're starting
With Bryce.
with Bryce, correct, Bryce. Thank you. Bryce, chapter 4, 1 to 8.
You're on.
Take off your
Bryce,
mute.
you're
You're on
on
mute,
mute.
Bryce. You're on mute.
I don't see him.
I'm gonna mute myself.
There he is.
There you go.
All right. Let me do it again. The Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, after Ewa had died. So the Lord
Hold on a minute.
sold them to King Jablam of Canaan, who was reign in Hazaron. The commander of his army was Shirah, who lived in Heshbon of the nations.
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Didn't you say chapter 4?
Yeah, chapter 4. This might be different to
Of
yours.
Judges.
Of Judges.
Of Judges, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I'll try to, it seems very different, but
Which
go ahead.
one-
Okay.
Which version are you using, Celeste?
Good news, today's English version.
It'll be a little different.
Yeah, no, I know
All right,
that.
let me- You
It
want
just
me to
seems
start all
really
over again?
different.
Wait, hold on, Bryce. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Bryce, start again, please.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's
The
all right.
Israelites-
Madam Silas.
The Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, after Ewa had died. So the Lord sold them to King Jablan of Canaan, who was reign in Hazaron. The commander of his army was Sirah, who lived in Hazarons of the nations. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord, because Jablan had 900 iron chariots, and he harshly oppressed them 20 years. Deborah, a prophetess, and the wife of Lapidus, was judging Israel at that time. She would sit under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites went up to her and settled the disputes. She summoned Bach, son of Bachlan, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "Hasn't the Lord, the God of Israel, commanded you to go deploy the troops on Mount Tabor and take with you 10,000 men from Maphantalis and Zappalas? Then I will lure Sirah's command of Jablan's army with his chariots and his infantry, and at the Winus Kanish to fight against you, and I will hand you over to you." Bach said to her, if you will go with me, I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go.
Thank you. Susan, thank you.
Okay. Certainly I will go with you, said Deborah. But because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours. For the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. There Barak summoned Zebulun, anyway, I can't pronounce, and
Naphtali.
Naphtali. And
Naphtali.
10,000, I think I got that. Naphtali and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went with him. Now Heber, the Kenite, had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree of Zananin near Kadesh. When they told Sisera that Barak, the son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera summoned from Harosheth and
That's all right, Hagwin.
Haganomen to the Kishon River, all his men and his 900s fitted with iron. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you?" So Barak went to Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots, and the army of the sword. And Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Haroseth Haganim, and Sisera's troop fell by the sword. Not a man was left.
Thank you.
Sisera ran away
am I done?
to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because King Jabin of Hazor was at peace with Heber's family. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, come in, sir, come into my tent. Don't be afraid. So he went in, and she hid him behind a curtain. He said to her, please give me a drink of water. I'm thirsty. She opened a leather bag of milk, gave him a drink, and hid him again. Then he told her, stand at the door of the tent, and if anyone comes and asks you if anyone is in here, say no. Sisera was so tired that he fell sound asleep. Then Jael took a hammer and tent peg, quietly went up to him and killed him by driving the peg right through the side of his head and into the
Yikes.
ground. When Barak came back looking for Sisera, Jael went out to meet him and said to him, come here, I'll show you the man you're looking for. So he went in with her, and there was Sisera on the ground, dead, with the tent peg through his head. That day, God gave the Israelites victory over Jabin, the Canaanite king. They pressed harder and harder against him until they destroyed him.
Thank you. Chapter 5, starting with.
Yeah.
Start
First.
with
Iris.
Iris. Yes.
On that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang this song. But you don't expect me to sing it, right?
Go right ahead. If you can try, go right ahead. Want some-
When the princes in Israel take the lead, when the people willingly offer themselves, praise the Lord. Hear this, kings. Listen, you rulers. I, even I, will sing to the Lord. I will praise the Lord, the God of Israel, in song. When you, Lord, went out from Seir, when you marched from the land of Edom, the earth shook, the heavens poured, the clouds poured down water, the mountains quaked before the Lord, the one of Sinai, before the Lord, the God of Israel.
Verse 6 as well.
Oh, in the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were abandoned. Travelers took to winding paths.
Thank you. Is it Lisa next?
Lisa.
Go
Yes.
ahead, Lisa. 7 to 12.
7 to 12. The peasantry prospered in Israel. They grew fat on plunder because you arose, Deborah, arose as a mother in Israel. When new gods were chosen, then war was in the gates. Was shield or spear to be seen among 40,000 in Israel? My heart goes out to the commanders of Israel who offered themselves willingly among the people. Bless the Lord. Tell of it, you who ride on white donkeys, you who sit on rich carpets, and you who walk by the way. To the sound of musicians at the watering places, there they repeat the triumphs of the Lord, the triumphs of his peasantry in Israel. Then down to the gates marched the people of the Lord. Awake, awake, Deborah, awake, awake, utter a song. Arise, Barak, lead away your captives, O son of Abinoam.
Thank you.
Then down came the fugitives with the mighty. The people of the Lord came down for me as warriors. From Ephraim, princes were in the valley. Behind you was Benjamin among your troops. From Machir came down commanders. From Zebulun, wielders of the marshal's staff. With Deborah were the princes of Issachar. Barak too was in the valley, his course unchecked. Among the clans of Reuben, great were the searchings of the heart. Why do you stay beside your hearths, listening to the lowing of the herds? Among the clans of Reuben, great were the searching of heart. Gilead, beyond the Jordan, rests. Why does Dan spend his time in ships? Asher, who dwells along the shore, is resting in his coves.
We started at 13, down to verse 18.
Lorraine.
Zebulun is the people defying death. Naphtali, too, on the open heights.
Kings came, they fought, the kings of Canaan fought at Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo. But they carried off no silver, no plunder. From the heavens the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The river Kishon swept them away, the age-old river. The river Kishon, march on, my soul, be strong. Then hundreds of horses, hoofs galloping by his mighty steeds. Curse Mirage, said the angel of the Lord. Curse its people bitterly, because they did not come to help the Lord against the mighty. Okay,
Most blessed be the women
Oh,
of
wait a minute. Hold on, Pam. Lorraine had one more verse, verse 24.
oh, I did, okay. Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women.
Thank you. Sorry, Pam. Continue.
No worries. He asked for water, and she gave him milk. In a bowl fit for nobles, she brought him curdled milk. Her hand reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera, she crushed his head, she shattered and pierced his temple. At her feet he sank, he fell, there he lay. At her feet he sank, he fell. Where he sank, there he fell, dead. Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice she cried out, why is his chariot so long in coming? Why is the claret of his chariots delayed? The wisest of her ladies answered her, indeed, she keeps saying to herself, are they not finding and dividing the spoils? A woman or two for each man, colorful garments as plunder for Sisera, colorful garments, embroidered, highly embroidered garments for my neck. All this is plunder. So may all your enemies perish, Lord, but may all who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength. Then the land had peace for 40 years.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Ira's shaking her head
I
like,
don't get it.
oh my
Why-
God, what's all of this?
I don't get it, Father. Why would the
All right, you'll get it.
Israelites?
Hold on. You'll get it. You'll get it. Don't worry. You'll get it. You want to say something before I continue, Bryce?
Yes. I don't get it. I mean, why would the Israelites do what was evil in the sight of the Lord and get themselves into more trouble?
All right, we'll unpack it. Don't worry. We'll
Because
unpack
they're
it.
human.
We'll unpack it. We'll unpack it. Now,
I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, I don't understand why would you want to do evil in the sight of the Lord?
all right, hold on. Okay. Now, first thing is that we need to let me just point out is that Deborah had lived near the border of Ephraim and Benjamin, and she is one of Israel's great judges. I'm going to send you all a handout with all the names of the judges and how long they reigned. Esther was a judge for 40 years. She was one of the prominent judges. She was the only woman on record to hold that position of leadership over Israel. And she was also a prophetess.
She was also a queen too.
Of Judaism.
Father, you said Esther, you meant Deborah, right?
Sorry, not Esther, sorry. Deborah, yes. I said Esther?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Deborah was a prophetess. Thank you, Pam. Deborah was a prophetess of Judaism, and she was as I said, she was a judge. She was the fourth of the judges, and remember, the judges came before the monarchy, before King Saul or King David or Solomon or any of those. The judges were the one who more or less ruled on behalf of God, who was the king, really. And she, as I said too, she's the only female judge mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. Now, chapter 4 and verse 4 tells us that she is the wife of Lapidoth. Although nothing is known of him or nothing is known of his tribe. And some scholars, there's some bone of contention among some scholars, where some scholars believe that she was married to a man named Lapidoth. While there are others who feel that since the name Lapidoth comes from the word lapid, which means torch or lightning, that it is possible that by referring to Deborah as the wife of Lapidoth could mean that she was a fiery woman and not necessarily that she was the wife of this man. But it was more so of a characteristic of her. Now, what we read just now is the story of Deborah, which is
Father
mentioned.
Tony.
Yes,
Father
please. Yes? Celeste?
I didn't say anything.
Who said Father Tony?
I had a question.
Oh, Susan, I'm sorry, Celeste. I'm sorry.
I did, Susan.
Go ahead. Maybe
Yeah.
put your hand up so I know who it is.
So
Because Go ahead, Susan.
I did.
Mhm.
But you had to go down. Anyway, a judge was assigned to distribute
over
the
again,
law. Is
Susan,
that,
'cause
I
you're-
don't,
Wait,
I
Susan,
need a
start
better
over again.
description.
You're breaking up.
Definition of a judge.
oh, what is the definition of a judge? Is he assigned by God to
The judges were
distribute the
mainly
law or what?
the judges were mainly, and I was going to
Memory
get to that, but judges were mainly just like what they do today. They used to resolve disputes. They used to adjudicate cases. They used to respond to questions that people may have. That kind of thing. That's what they normally would do as judges.
But
in
they were
those
chosen by who?
I would think, well, that's an interesting question. I mean, it is believed that they would have been chosen by the people who were there, but in a sense, I think mainly that they were chosen by God, because especially with Deborah, Deborah was a very godly individual, and in fact, that is why you see when she tells Barak to go off and fight in the army, he wanted her there because of the godly person that she was. But let's not get there yet. But yes, but as I was answering your question, judges in those days,
all right.
they responded to questions from people from the various tribes who came to ask for their help.
Okay.
Ask for her help in solving disputes, settling cases that will be seen as legal, that sort of thing they would have done.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So what you find is the story of Deborah is in these two chapters we just read, chapter 4 and chapter 5. Chapter 4 is in prose, and chapter 5 is in poetry. It's a song, and it's called the Song of Deborah. And you will see that her story, she is found, if you look at chapter 4, you will see that she is found, you'll see that she's found sitting under the palm of Deborah, or between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. That was her court. That was her courthouse. And as it says in verse 5, and the Israelites came to her to have their disputes decided. So that's what normally she would have done, as well as all the other judges. And as I said, I'm going to send you a list electronically by email, so you can see how many judges there were, how long they reigned, and that sort of thing. Let's see, where am I? Yes. But the thing about the special thing about Deborah was is that because of her moral authority, she was regarded as being appointed by the Lord. And that goes back to what you were asking, Susan. By her moral authority, it was seen as if she was appointed by the
Okay.
Lord. And therefore, you will find that Deborah was greatly sought after. She was highly trusted. People will come to her because what she said would always come to pass. And it's believed that was the case because of her deep devotion and faith in God. God was the one who was guiding her and directing her. And if you got God directing or guiding your life, you can't got a better person guiding you. So that is why people flocked to her when she was a judge. And the other thing is that there's nothing to show or nothing is known as to why in a patriarchal society like this, that this woman will rise to such prominence, to the position of judge. Judging the Israelite tribes. There were 12 of them. And not only was she a judge or a prophetess, she was also a war leader, because when she went into war with Barak and so forth, she played an instrumental part. And so there's nothing to say why she became a judge. The only thing that we could probably gather from it is that because of the person she was, the religious person that she was, is probably the reason why she got to such prominence. That God was with her, that God was guiding her, God was bringing her through by leaps and bounds. These male-dominated roles, and no one questioned. I will say. No one questioned her because of her authenticity, because of her accuracy, and because of when they come to her, they felt that their disputes, their concerns, their questions were answered not necessarily correctly, but were answered in a way in which, or I should say, answered appropriately in a way in which they felt that they could trust her and they trust her judgment when she said what she said. So that is probably the reason why she got into that position. There's hardly another answer to think that she would have gotten in that position, except the fact that God was with her. God was one who was in control. She allowed God to control her, and she got to that position. She can be seen in the Bible as one of the earliest examples of exercising charismatic leadership. Her charisma, the gifts that she had, the qualities that she had, shows that she was really a charismatic person, and she can move the people, stir the people.
She's an old-time influencer.
She was, very much so, she was. And as I said, the only other person that probably comes up to her as a woman is Queen Esther. But Deborah was. Now, one of the things you will realize that when I send you the handout, you will see there's the cycle that I spoke about last week about how Israel's obedience and disobedience got them into a tizzy, and they were, and you will see it on that handout in a diagram how it went. And so I mentioned that to say that after the Israelites had lapsed and were oppressed in the north by the Canaanite king of Hazor Jabin, it was Deborah. If you look in the prose version, it was Deborah who conveyed God's instructions by summoning Barak, who was the general of the army of Naphtali, to gather an army to battle these oppressors.
Hmm.
And so she told Barak that also where to lead that army against Jabin's general, which was Sisera. And the place where she told him to lead the army was to a place called Mount Tabor. And as I was saying, I said to the others this morning, anyone ever heard about the Moravian Church?
What?
Nope.
The Moravian Church. Pam, you have.
No.
Right. And I see Marilyn and George nodding their heads as well. And also Lorraine. Yes. The Moravian Church is a church that was formed out of Germany. And I mention it because there are three churches, not three, I think there are more than three, but there's Moravian churches in Barbados. And one of the churches' name is Mount Tabor. They do not, I don't know if in other places, but in Barbados, I think all the Moravian churches are named after places in Israel. So there's Mount Tabor, there's Calvary, there's Bethlehem. Those are the Moravian churches, and I think they have a couple more. I don't remember what their names are, but they don't normally name their churches like how we name our churches, mostly after saints or people. They don't. They name them after places. So I just felt I would mention that. But
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. But so she told Barak to lead the army to Mount Tabor and also predicted the outcome of the battle. That isn't going to depend on Barak's military skills. The outcome of the victory of the battle will come because of the intervention of God, God's intervention. So although you see this as a physical battle, there's a theological aspect to it because this battle is God's battle. And God is who is guiding and directing it. And God is the one who is going to bring about the victory in it. And Barak and the general, the other army, the other soldiers, there are the hands and the feet and those are the vessels that God is using to make this happen. So you find then that at Deborah's command, Barak calls 10,000 warriors from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun to meet at his own birthplace, which was Kadesh, which is southwest of the Sea of Galilee. And even though that Deborah prophesied that Sisera will die, Barak was reluctant to go in battle himself without Deborah being with him and the army. So you see here in verse 8 of chapter 4, Barak said to her, "If you go with me, I will go, but if you don't go with me, I will not go." So he trusted her so much that he wanted to go, that he would not go if she was not going. And obviously it had to do, he saw her being there as essential. He saw her being there as very much needed in this battle. But what Barak failed to realize that yes, Deborah was the one who brought the news to him of what will happen and so forth. But who was giving the news to Deborah? God. So in the instance, God is the one who you are to put most of your faith and your trust in, not necessarily Deborah. It's all right, she's good, but the person really is God. And so you see what happens is in verse 9, she says to him, "Very well, I will go with you, but because of the way you are going about this, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will hand Sisera over to a woman." So you can almost tell that that Deborah is saying, you're not going to get the glory fellow. You're not going to be the one who is going to be seen as the victor. There is a woman who is going to be the victor. And it, it, it shows that, um, And I think the reason for that is that because Barak did not trust God to deliver him in this battle. Because this was a holy war. As I said, this was God's war. This is a holy war. The reason we are having this war is you want to get the land of Canaan, the land that God promised you. Jabin and Sisera and all them, they're the ones who living on this land. These are your enemies. You want to get your land back from them. And so God is the one who told you and who promised you can get the land. Therefore, why are you putting your faith in Deborah? Why are you not putting your faith in God? And so you find here that Deborah, and Deborah knows it. As soon as he does it, Deborah tells him, very well, but because of the way you are going about this, you're going about it wrong, buddy. But because the way you're going about this, this is what is going to happen. And it does happen, where he doesn't get the opportunity to be the one who drives the tent pegs into Sisera's temple. A woman does. And so I think that is important in the sense that it shows us that because he did not trust God to deliver him, that it was not necessarily that it was a punishment, but he was not able to receive the full measure of what could have been his if he had gone about.
Like Moses.
In terms of?
In terms of not getting to the promised land.
Well, yes, you are right. You are correct. You're absolutely correct. Because when Moses, the reason why Moses doesn't get to the promised land is because God told him to tap the rock. And instead of he tapping the rock, he struck it in anger. And by striking it in anger, cost him not being able to get to, right. He saw the promised land, but he never entered it.
Right.
And so, yes, that is correct. That is very true. So you see this whole, one thing that you see coming out here with these folks thus far, the same thing with Joshua and Caleb last week, is the faith and the obedience. The faith and the obedience is very, to God, is very important in terms of how you go about fighting battles or doing things that God is at the fore of everything. And it is a matter of trusting God, believing in God, obeying God, that is important. You saw Joshua and Caleb, they did it. And you saw the ones who didn't do it, what happened to them last week. Now you see here again, Deborah is the one who is doing it. And here.
Uh-oh, we lost you.
Hear me?
Yeah, we can now. Are you on?
Can you hear me? Oh, my internet. Oh, I see why. My internet connection is unstable.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you now, but you did freeze. Do you have a cable capability, or are you on Wi-Fi?
I'm on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I don't have the cable capability.
Okay, well, we'll just
I'm
deal
sorry.
with it. We'll deal with it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. It just came up on my screen for a split
second. You make a good salesman with that.
So, well, you know, I'm into sales, you know. So what you see here now too is in Deborah. Deborah is the one who is totally in tune in her relationship, in a oneness with the Father. And although Barak is not a bad individual, yet still he does not have that oneness with the Father, to trust the Father, to trust God, what he said. He still feels that if he did bring the magic wand in terms of Deborah in, that it would not work. And I think that is why he suffered, having not gotten the personal victory with Sisera, but a woman does. Who just left? Somebody just dropped off. Oh,
Juanita.
Juanita. She must be unstable too.
It's part of
Uh,
life.
Well, yeah, I think somebody, I mean, somebody's gone after her too. Yeah, it's part of life. Bless you. So here we see in the whole notion of the fighting, the battle is that Barak assembled his men on Mount Tabor. Sisera advanced his intimidating array of forces along the open plain, and then you find that the Israelites had no chariots or any the shields, no spears, no nothing. Sisera and them, they had, chariots and swords. Sorry. Barak's army only had swords. But what happened is that they were in the woods on the mountainside, and as we know, there was a violent rainstorm that flooded the Kishon River and caused the valley be and turn the valley into mud. And then Sisera's army, along with all the horses and chariots, they got completely bogged down in the mud and became immobilized. And that is when then the Israelites came down from the mountainside, descended upon them, and killed all of them. And we hear that all of them were killed except for Sisera at the time, because Sisera was the only one who was able to fled. And again, prophecy foretold he was to die by a woman. So he was the only one that fled, and he still died, but by a woman. And that's what happened. And as we all know, the woman's name was Jael. Oh, yes, please.
I thought in the next one in 5, it said that Deborah killed him.
No.
So I was confused as to
No,
who
it wasn't
killed
Deborah. It wasn't Deborah. We are coming to chapter 5 now. No, it wasn't Deborah that killed him. You will see.
I know, at the end of it, I thought it said Deborah killed him.
No,
Okay.
it wasn't Deborah that killed him. If you read here, Judges chapter 5 from verse 24, you see here, most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women. She asked for water, and he asked for water, and she gave him milk.
Okay.
In a bowl
At the end said,
fit for nobles. She brought
okay.
him.
Thank
see
you.
what I'm talking?
Okay, I misinterpreted.
Yes.
Yeah, I
It
will
was
when we get
Jael
to the one, I guess.
Yeah, it was Jael who killed Sisera. Somebody had something?
Sarah. Okay, thank you.
Oh, I thought somebody was going to add something.
No, I'm just read it.
And one of the things, and she's the one who drove the peg in his temple when he was asleep in the tent. And then she brought in, when Barak turns up, she brought in to Barak to show that he's already dead. And you see from that day on, once Sisera had died, Jabin, who was the king, his control over the land and his domination over the Israelites in the north was broken, and that changed. When we get to chapter 5, which is what we were, which you alluded to in there, Susan. When we get to chapter 5, what you get there is and I will invite you, if you have a Bible that has the book of the Apocrypha, to go and read Judith, the book of Judith, chapter 13, particularly from verse 23. And you will see that there's a similarity between the sound of Deborah and the book of Judah. I'm sorry, of Judith, where Judith beheads Holofernes and Holofernes and who was an Assyrian general and saved her own people, the same way Deborah was able to save the people the Israelites. Yes, Iris.
Father, was that
Judith chapter 13.
33?
20, coming from verse 23. But you can read a whole chapter, Judith chapter 13. Once you have but it's in the book of the Apocrypha. It will not be in the Old Testament. And there you see, and then you see in the thing that I want to point out, in chapter 5 is that you see it was almost, although this was a holy war, the Song of Deborah makes it sound as if it was some kind of a cosmic battle, to show that there was some holiness in it, in the sense that the stars, puts it like if the stars in heaven fought against Sisera and the Canaanites. If you look at verse 5, chapter 5 and verse 20, says here, from heavens the stars fought, and from their courses they fought against Sisera. And so you can see here that that is the powers of heaven fighting on behalf of Israel. And so you could tell that it's a holy war that is going on here. The other thing is that she mentions is the whole notion of, in chapter 5 and verse 5, the whole notion of it requiring Deborah's reliance on God in this holy war, and victory given over to Yahweh. So you see in chapter 5, verse 5, the mountains quake before the Lord, the one of Sinai, before the Lord, the God of Israel. So you can tell that this is about God, like how God appeared on Mount Sinai, and he appeared. If we read, I think, and I will tell you also read Psalm 68, but you will find that in Exodus 19 and verses 16 to 18, that when God appeared at Mount Sinai, there was an earthquake and thunderstorm that occurred at that time. And you see here, Deborah is saying, you know, the earth trembled and the heavens poured, and the clouds indeed poured water. And all of this is a similarity to what happened when God appeared to Moses. You see God's presence here as well. The other thing though, I want to, yes, Lisa, sorry there.
Did you say Exodus 19?
Exodus 19, yes, 16 to 18, correct.
Okay, just making a note. Thank you.
Yes, Exodus 19, 16 to 18. You will see that parallel with an earthquake and thunderstorm occurring when God appeared at Mount Sinai. And it's compared to Judges chapter 5 and verse 5. And then you also have, there's differences between the prose and the poetry. If you look at it really, is that when it comes to the poetry, it is really graphic language. If you were just to even look at how Sisera dies in chapter 4, where is it? In chapter 4, we are told in verse 21, but Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quickly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple in the ground and he died. And that was it. That's all that chapter 4 says about his death. However, when we read chapter 5, you will see here on verse 26, her hand reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera, she crushed his head. Nothing is in chapter 4 about that. She crushed his head. She shattered and pierced his temple. At her feet he sank, he fell, there he lay. At her feet he sank, he fell. Where he sank, there he fell, dead. And it is so dramatic.
Very dramatic.
It is so dramatic. The way how the song, the poetry. Hi, Skipper. The way how the poetry is so much more dramatic than the prose. So I just want to share that is a difference that you see in terms of the language that is being used and the imagery that is being used, the images that are being used. One thing I would also like to mention that although where was it? I'm trying to see. Although that Deborah was the only female judge in Israel, that it is believed there were other Israeli women who were prophets, and the most notable one besides Deborah was Miriam, actually, who was Moses' sister. So that was another one who was seen as a prophet. The other thing I want to mention about this is there was something else I wanted to mention. Hold on, before another difference. There were a couple of more differences I wanted to mention besides where were they? Hold on. Oh, one of the other differences is that you see in chapter 5, they talk about Sisera's mother. There's no talk about Sisera's mother in chapter 4.
Yeah.
Again, you could almost picture what was happening with her. She's like a mother looking for her son to come home, and he's coming home late, and she's worried over what's going on with him. Why is he not coming home yet? He should have been home by now. And you can see that if you look at verse 28 of chapter 5. Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice, she cried out. So you have this image of lattice work in the picture as well. Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why is the clatter of his chariot's delay? The wisest of her ladies answered her. Indeed, she keeps saying to herself, are they not finding and dividing the spoils? And this is one that hits me. A girl or two for each man? That's a classic. So you could almost picture that Sisera used to come home and tell her what they used to do. You know, part of the spoils was getting a woman or two, and and that sort of stuff. You can almost feel that. And then she continues, and she says, colorful garments as plunder for Sisera. So he used to come home, his wardrobe was really pretty with all kinds of colorful garments. And then she continues, highly embroidered garments for my neck. So she was getting some of the spoils as well.
Right.
He was bringing home for his mother. All this as plunder. And so you could tell that she was probably wondering, my son is my favorite son. He's doing a lot for me, bring me home some nice looking clothes. And what's happening? Not knowing that he's dead. But she's wondering why he's taking so long to get home. That kind of thing. Yes, Pam?
You're muted.
Muted.
That's not the way I read it.
How you read it?
I read this as still part of the quote of the song. And this is Deborah and Barak imagining what she was saying.
Yes.
Now,
I
there may
agree.
be truth to that imagination, or they may have just been imagining.
Made it up.
Right.
Yes, and it is true. Not necessarily, because remember, this is Deborah's song.
Mhm.
So
Right.
this is Deborah's song. So you could almost let me rephrase that. If you got the imagination that this is what actually happened, we are not sure this is what actually happened, but it is Deborah's interpretation of what may have actually happened.
May have.
That is what it is. So thanks for that clarification, Pam. It is Deborah's interpretation of what may have happened, and it might be true that it happened, but we're not sure that it did happen either.
Yeah, well, presumably she had some knowledge, but she may have also embellished it, right?
Yes.
Just like the songs of old conquests, if you will.
Yes.
Well, she-
Lisa, thank you for that though, Pam. Lisa, wanted you to say something?
And I had even a little bit of a different interpretation where you say, "Oh, she's worried about her son. Where is he? Oh, he's late." I sort of got that, but it was more like, "Well, where is he? Where's my stuff?" You know? Like,
But listen, but let me tell you this, Lisa. I thought about that too, but
I was like, "Wow, she's
yeah, she
not
was
really
like,
even
man,
concerned
why
about
is he not
him."
hurrying up so I can get some of my stuff that he's bringing home for me? And that
The
could be
apple don't
true.
fall too far from the tree.
True. That is true. That could be very true. And you're right too, Celeste. That is very true. And you're right, Lisa. That is true. So you see, you could never, you never could tell. You never could tell. But bear in mind still, but this is Deborah, the Song of Deborah. This is Deborah's
Right.
portrayal. And therefore, it may not be totally accurate, or it could be accurate, or it could be somewhat accurate. So,
Well, she is a prophet, right? She's
well, yeah, she is. So she might know. It's right. That is true. That is true. That is true. You never know. God may have told her this. You never know. So that is true. That is true. And I mean, and she is a very when people hear her speak and make judgments and decisions, they believe her. They take her what she says of great worth. So you never know. And then she's singing this song and everybody hearing it. Gee, that news gone, spread it, man. You never know. You never know. So there was one other thing. Oh gosh, where is it? There was one other thing. I thought I had written it down that was
No, you didn't write it down.
different. Oh, here you will find that the tribes are named in this book in chapter 4. You know, Ephraim, Benjamin, Zebulun, and Naphtali, and all those are mentioned, which are not mentioned in chapter. So that's another wow between the two stories of Deborah. The other thing I want to draw your attention to in chapter 5 is verse 24. You'll see it says here that Deborah calls Jael, who's the one that killed Sisera. She says, most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women. Who else in the Bible we remember is called most blessed? Bless you.
Bless you.
No, I didn't mean that
Mary.
blessed though.
Mary.
Mary.
Mary, right?
Mary.
Mary, the Blessed
Yeah.
Virgin Mary. Who
I'm
said
the
that
most
of her?
blessed. Gabriel.
Gabriel.
No.
No? Hmm.
Gabriel called her highly favored, but who called her
Her
most
Aunt
blessed of
Elizabeth?
women?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Her
Elizabeth.
cousin.
George.
Elizabeth. When she went to visit Elizabeth, her cousin Elizabeth is who said that of her.
She also said it about herself, right? In the Magnificat.
Huh?
She said it about herself in the Magnificat.
She said it about herself in the Magnificat, but that would have been after Elizabeth, because the greeting of Elizabeth calling her, that's where we get the Hail Mary from. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. When Elizabeth, let's go to Luke's gospel. Let's see where it is there. It's in Luke's gospel somewhere, I think it is.
Pretty soon we'll have you guys saying the rosary.
Ah! You will like that, eh?
Luke's gospel, what chapter in Luke?
In all of us, right?
But I know the rosary. I know that very well.
There is an Episcopal rosary, George.
Yeah, there is. There is an Episcopal rosary.
If you're not careful,
what
you'll
chapter
get
in
it
Luke?
for Christmas.
46. 146.
Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1. You see, and when you look.
What do we?
Well, let's back up a minute. Let's go from verse 39. Luke chapter 1, verse 39.
Oh,
At that time, Mary got ready and hurried to a town in the hill country of Judea, where she entered Zachariah's home and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb. And Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. In a loud voice, she exclaimed, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the child you will bear. But why am I so favored that the mother of my Lord shall come to me? As soon as the sound of your greeting reached my ears, the baby in my womb leaped for joy. Blessed is she who has believed that what the Lord has said to her will be accomplished." So we see that from Elizabeth to Mary when she entered. And then I'm looking to see.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is
Yeah.
with thee, blessed art thou. There's the Hail Mary is not actually in the body.
It is not in the Bible, but pieces like this, what I just read,
Yeah.
that's a piece
Right.
of it is
Yeah.
in the Bible.
Yeah.
You see, and I'll tell you this, a lot of the times people say, "Oh, well, the Hail Mary is not in the Bible," or the Nicene Creed is not in the Bible. No, it is not in there in its entirety, as we say, but it's in there. You
Right.
go through the whole Nicene Creed, and everything you see in the Nicene Creed is in the Bible. And
Right.
people want it like, oh, it has to be the full thing is how you say it. No. It the same way with the Hail Mary. The whole thing, as they say, is not there, but it is in the Bible. And this is where people do not, in various parts, and people do not understand that. So, and I want you to understand that, because a lot of us don't realize our Book of Common Prayer, if my mind serves me correctly, is about 80% biblical Bible. I mean, in the Bible, 80% of it. And I don't think there's, George will have to tell me if the Roman Missal is similar, but I could tell you the Episcopal Book of Common Prayer, the Anglican Book of Common Prayer, 80% of it is in the, at least. So it's all biblical. So, when people talk about, oh, you all got this book and all that, you need to be able to say to them, yeah, we do. Because, and you know why? Because it's the closest next thing to the Bible. It has 80% of the Bible in it. And this is something that we don't. I'll give you an example. Every offertory sentence I mentioned, walk in love as Christ loved us and give himself for us, and offering sacrifice. That's a Bible verse. All the offertory sentences that we say on Sunday morning, each Sunday morning, a different one every Sunday as we rotate them, every one is in the Bible. And we don't realize what a treasure that we have. So to just wrap it all up, you will see here that Deborah was a woman who changed the people of Israel, the tribes of Israel, who was able to give them sound advice, sound judgment, sound decisions, and to solve disputes and so forth. And she was very much revered. We believe that it was her being revered that greatly was as a result of her strong and wholesome and healthy and honest relationship with God, is what allowed her to be that way. Once Sisera and she and all the other won the battle against the Canaanites, there was stability and peace for 40 years. Someone said to me this morning, you all can tell me if it's true. Someone said to me this morning, it is interesting that they get 40 years of peace, and in the United States, every 20 years, something happens before we can get peace. And I thought that's a thing, but who knows? There might be something there. But you see that the land enjoys stability and peace for 40 years. Yes, Pam?
Is 40 years one of the magic numbers?
One of the magic numbers. One of the magic numbers.
40 days,
40 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 40 days, 40 nights.
40 days in the wilderness.
One of the 40
40
days in the
days.
wilderness, one of the magic numbers.
Kind of stuck
Just,
on 40.
just like 7 and 12 and 10.
Okay.
Yep, one of the magic numbers. And we find too is that Deborah, even within a male-dominated culture and society, that Deborah was able to exercise authority. And one of the things I also wanted to point out to you all is look at Deborah and look at Barak as we look back at chapter 4. And you look back at if you haven't lost it, you can get back to Judges. This is another thing that I wanted to point out to you all, which is interesting in Judges chapter 4 and beginning from verse 8 and 9. Where it says, Barak said to her, if you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go. Very well, Deborah said, I will go with you. But because of the way you are going about this, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will hand Sisera over to a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. And I wanted to point that out because look at it. We are in a male-dominated culture, society. And you are seeing there two people who are not living up to what society dictates. You see Deborah, who is a woman judge, which would never have been the case for a woman in those days, but she is playing a leading role. And you have Barak, a general, a man, who is saying, I am willing to be second to Deborah, who is not in what would have been in those days. He was willing to not have personal victory. One, because
we're almost done anyway. All right.
One, because he had asked a woman to go with him, and two, that a woman was the one who's going to be victorious, who's going to get the personal victory in Jael. So you see here these two folks whose personalities run contrary to the time of that society. Where hold on a minute, Susan. Where Deborah is seen like almost like the male role, and Barak is playing the minor role in this case.
At 7:30, we'll shut this thing off. Okay.
Yes, Susan.
Well, did Deborah rule Israel after this, or was she in collaboration with other judges? How did that? Did she?
Deborah's rule. Bring up the thing. Let me show it. Hold on, if I can find it. Can I find it?
After this, Sisera perished.
Well, you see, the thing is about it is that you have to realize as well that some of these things we don't have the person's whole life story as if they, they were born this time and they died and all of that. You don't.
They had peace for 40 years. Okay. Okay.
You don't necessarily have that in some instances. You can have it in some, but you don't necessarily have to have it in all instances. Give me one second.
I thought you got.
Just
all
give
right,
me a
never
second.
mind.
No, where I was looking for something here and I'm not finding it. Yes. Just give me a minute, please.
Yeah, we have something for you. But Deborah's alive.
Seeing what I want.
Yeah, that's all right. I just wondered if Deborah went on
Yeah,
and
I am not,
continued her rule as a woman.
I did not check, as I said, I don't recall whether they tell you, whether or not she went, I mean, we know that she reigned for 40 years, that her, her being a judge at the time was for a 40-year period. So during that time, yes, but whether or not what
Okay.
happened after that, I'm not sure.
Thank you. Okay.
Let's see here.
Pam has it.
Hmm,
Just said peace.
where
I didn't.
is?
Oh, that's all right.
Okay,
know,
but
since
as I
she
said,
was-
I'm going to send you all. I was looking to see if I could find it, and I'm not finding it. Oh, once it's. Why am I not finding this? Let's do this one more time. Because I know. Let's see. Is it this? Oh, yes, here. Hold on, let me just see if I can pull this up. Where's right here? Now share screen. This is what I'm going to send you all. Can you see this?
Mhm.
Yes.
You can see this, right? You see, these are the judges here.
Oh.
Oh, that's good.
So you see, Deborah is number 4 in the line. And it just gives you a brief description. After 20 years of oppression from King Jabin of Canaan, Deborah convinced Barak to attack, and Barak was victorious. And you see that the years she judged was for 40 years. The guy, Ehud, who, when you read chapter 4, was the very first name that was mentioned after Ehud died. There's him there. He was a judge for 80 years. So he was probably like, he was probably like Queen Elizabeth. He started at a very young age. But he ruled for 80 years. He's the longest reign. And you see there that some people only reign for 6 years and 7 years and 8 years. And Shamgar, his is unknown. But I will send this to you all. And then you see here at the top, what I was talking about with the judges, where you see Israel disobeys, and then Israel is oppressed, and then Israel cries out, and God raises up a deliverer, and then Israel is delivered, and then Israel is at peace until Israel disobeys again. It goes around and around and around in a merry circle. But I'm going to send you that information. So you can have it.
What's new? They're doing it for.
So you can have it as a keepsake.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that'll help.
Any questions? Oh, yes, Iris.
Nope.
Unmute yourself. Unmute, Iris. Wait a minute. Let me just stop the share and so I can see everybody again. Go ahead.
Unmute yourself.
Wait, unmute, Iris. Unmute, Iris.
No, you're still on mute.
She's looking for it. You're still mute. You're still muted.
Put your cursor on top of you. In the top right of your little box. There you go.
Good. You did. All right, you got it.
Well, it's interesting reading about these powerful women and you saying that, men. I'm thinking maybe it's time we had a woman president.
Oh, no.
We have a woman what?
President.
Woman president.
A woman president?
I think. Women rule.
I think you mean a women president here in the United States.
Oh, yes.
Oh, honestly, I think that is very soon in coming.
Oh,
I think that is very soon in coming.
Oh.
I mean, for an advanced country as we are, we are way behind the pecking order when it comes to a woman being president or a woman leading the country. There's so many countries where women have led. Even the same Israel was led by a woman prime minister, Golda Meir. And we're talking about back in the early 70s.
Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah,
Margaret Thatcher.
yeah, I know. I know we have a woman governor in New York State.
Yes, I mean you've had governors, but to lead the whole country. Yes, ma'am.
No, I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand for something. Oh,
I am.
yeah,
I have a question, but you can finish.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. But you see, we have had, women have been ruling various places. There was a woman out in Bangladesh. I can't remember her name. I mean, long time ago.
What was it? Imelda Marcos in the Philippines.
Or something her name was, or something.
No, I don't know what her name
Bangladesh.
was.
Yeah, but Imelda Marcos was in the Philippines.
Imelda Marcos, yes. Well, no, was she a president though, or it was her husband?
No,
she wasn't a president. Her husband was. But she was the president.
She became, yes.
You thought she was the president, but she wasn't. Her husband.
I think she became
was she the president?
I believe she became.
I think she became president. Until say that, I think she became president after the husband did.
I think so.
No, you said that. She might. Pam, check out to tell me if Imelda Marcos became president.
She was the first
you were
lady
saying
of
that.
She was the
Was
first lady
Imelda
of
Marcos
Philippines
ever?
Wait, hold on. Let me hear
All
what
right,
Pam is
a few
saying.
minutes, we're just
Hold
going
on.
to shut everything off.
Hold on 1 second, please.
Because I got to go to
Go ahead,
meditation.
Pam.
So she was the first lady from 1965 to 1986 and wielded significant political power after her husband was under martial law. It doesn't say she was ever.
She was a president.
She just
Okay.
wielded significant power.
I know she did, but I couldn't remember if she was or not. But yes, I mean, in Barbados now we have a prime minister who's being
That's right.
Who is a female for the last 5 years now, almost.
She's
It's not
very
that.
good too.
Yeah. So yeah. So we got all these. You have a lot of. You go through. I mean, in the Caribbean, you had Dominica Eugenia Charles. You in Trinidad had a woman president. In Jamaica, there was a woman prime minister. I mean, we are way behind in that regard.
Doing good, Bryce. So don't worry about it.
We are way behind in that regard. But the same. I always hear my mother say, "The race is not for the swift; it's for those who endure to the end." So we will get there. We will get.
I think
there.
it's
We will get.
Okay, sure.
Okay, Pam, are you going to put your name in the hat?
Pam, you have a question?
Go ahead, Pam.
So when we read, I think it's chapter 5, it sounds like she's calling out the 12 tribes of Israel, right?
Israel.
Ephraim, Benjamin, Machir, Zebulun. And the way I'm reading it, she's like, okay, the princes of Issachar were there, but the people in Reuben stayed home watching their flocks. Gilead stayed home. Dan stayed home by his ship. Asher remained in his coves. So she's like calling out these 4 tribes who were.
She's a judge.
Who did not do what they should have done.
Right. That's the way I read it. I just wanted to check.
Yes. Very true. Very true. Very true. She's almost like admonishing them to do. And then when she gets to Zebulun, she says that they risk their lives, their very lives. So you know that she's pleased with them. So did Naphtali on the heights of the field. These are the people who were fighting, whereas these other ones home playing, as we were saying, Barbados, playing thrones. They wouldn't do what they're supposed to do.
Right. Is there a map that shows where the different tribes lived, or did they move around?
Yes, I'll get that for you. You mean where they were? Yes, I'm sure there is a map. I've seen one, I'm sure. I'll send that to you all at the same time. Let me just make a note of that because I'm going to send you all some other stuff. And I'm also going to just send you all a thing with just a paper, a handout with for those who did the infamous Book of Revelation, just to show you the cities, how they were positioned around, not the city, the churches, how they were positioned around in Turkey, which is now Turkey.
Okay.
But yeah, let me get a pen, make a note to send
Marilyn had a question. Okay.
the map of the 12 tribes of Israel, where they were settled. That's what you mean, right? Where they were settled. Yes. Yes. Who has a question?
It's a comment, not a question,
Mhm.
but president of Liberia, and I want to say it was 2011, was
Another woman?
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
And I know
there's-
she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011
Wow.
for her
Wow.
work in ensuring women's
Wow.
participation in peace building.
Wow.
And
There have been a lot of women leaders leading their countries for years. Who was it?
2
Was it
minutes left.
Australia
Right,
or
just
New
be patient.
Zealand
2
that
more
just
minutes.
had one as well recently? I think it was Australia, not
There's been
Australia,
a
New
lot of them,
Zealand. I
even in
think.
big
New
countries.
Zealand.
New Zealand.
New
Jacinda
Zealand,
something
yes.
or-
New
no.
Zealand had a prime minister that was a woman quite
Yeah.
recently. I don't know if she still is. She was quite recently the prime minister. Yeah, as I said, we'll get there. We'll get there. But I think we will soon get there. That's my opinion. Now, I'm not a prophet, so
Yeah, neither am I.
all right. Any other questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Samson
All right,
and Delilah
right.
next week.
Now, next week, we are going to look at Samson and Delilah.
Oh,
Know the
cool.
song, Samson and
Oh, cool.
Delilah.
Okay, cool.
Do
So
we
we'll
have
be
a
looking at
pre-read?
Samson and Delilah next week.
Do
Thank
we
you,
have a
Pam.
pre-read?
Thank you, my dear.
Good night.
Okay.
Love everyone.
night.
God
Good night.
bless.
Good
night.
night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Bye-bye.